Wearing my uniform again this week.
I feel like I should say "Ula" or something for you.
Beautiful sunny day outside before we have a snowstorm over the weekend.
Are you serious?
That's what called for, but there's not going to be any snow. It's like 50 degrees American all weekend.
You wish.
It would have to be like softball sized snowflakes in order for them to hit the ground and actually remain as snow. So,
That's true. That's true.
but it's going to be a whole lot of rain. How's Illinois doing?
Good, except for well, okay, we won't get into politics, but good. I'm healthy and I'm alive,
That would
and I'm
be
making
a whole
sales.
other hour. Yeah, that'd be a whole other hour. Good to see Scott make it here so early in the morning as well. He's out in Calgary, so I think it's what, 6 a.m. there? Yeah. Is that what it is there too, Karen? 6 a.m.?
No, what time is it? I think it's 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. But my eyes are still puffy. I have been up since 6, but this is coffee.
Craziness. How's everybody doing? Good looking group. So before we dive in, actually, while people are just slowly joining, I just wanted to throw out a question to say, what's some exciting, positive things that have been happening in your life in the past few weeks? Anybody have anything to share on that? And then we'll dive right into some material. Anybody have some cool stuff to share? Some exciting news, cool opportunities, anything like that? Not all at once.
I'll share. I don't mind kicking off.
All right.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm also with LMI in the States, and so we're franchise based. And at the time, I only have one associate. So, I often, especially with this quarantine, feel very isolated and very, very much alone. And so, my counterpart that is in Chicago, he has a much larger team. He and I have been working together weekly, just collaborating and working on some different challenges that we're all facing. And that has been really, really good, building me up. And yet I found, I'm seeing that I'm bringing value to him too. So that's good. And so I think that's a positive thing in light of everything going on.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, his office won a fairly big award recently at the World Awards. We had an online
Yeah, I
award
did.
banquet, but I don't know how you guys did it, but
Nothing.
Who ended up winning the top sales for Canada? Was it anybody in particular? Or?
I don't know. I can't remember. It was some really good looking guy. That's all I remember.
I figured there was a segue there from the National Congress.
Yeah. It's okay. I'll win next year, and Steven's name won't even be on the list.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding.
No, it's an honor. Thanks for pointing that out, Derek. I wasn't going to talk about that, but anyone else, like something awesome that's happened that you just can't hold it in? You got to share it with the group.
Sorry. Go ahead, Darren. I'll go after.
Darren, go ahead, my friend.
I am going to be a grandfather for the very first time, due any day now.
Woohoo!
That's exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't know how how can you be looking like you're 29 years old and be a grandpa? That's crazy.
Just surrounding myself with vibrant, energetic souls.
That's right.
Oh, that is key.
Congratulations. That's amazing news.
Thanks, Steve.
Chantel, take it away.
So I actually did a lot of reflecting on your topic of justifying and noticed I was even justifying how there were certain routines that I had at work that I couldn't do at home for whatever reason. I don't know what my justification behind that was, but like using my day timer. That is like the brutal truth. I was not using my day timer for like a whole month. And then after that conversation, I was like, why haven't I been? I still have things to do and tasks and whatever. It's just that my schedule is, I'm a single mom at home with a 10-year-old and running an organization. So, you know, I was just like, why can't I use my day timer? It actually would help. So I started doing that. And then my other, there's this side business that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and Gab pushed me to, you know, start it finally more officially, which I did. And then I kind of wasn't really doing anything, even though I had opportunity during quarantine, which is why I have dummies in the back. People always wonder why I have these guys back there, but it's because it's a t-shirt business, or well, swag business, whatever, but it's Acadian focused. So, you know, the whole thing about justifying and not doing it and not taking action, when you said, what could you do for the next 30 days? I'm like, well, I could use my day timer and I could actually work on my side business every day. It doesn't matter what it is. I always think I have to do something big, and it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be a task. So that's what I've been doing. And it's good because I've been selling shirts and I've been more productive, and I actually know what I need to do every day. And even if I don't get it done, it's not the end of the world, because, you know, it happens. The circumstances are different, but I feel better prepared to go back to work, which is good. I don't feel as anxious about it. And yeah, so thanks for that talk, because I think that's exactly what I needed to hear at the right time.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I am going to talk a little bit more about that too. I just want to do a quick follow-up here in a couple minutes regarding justification. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a good segue. But before I dive in there, anyone else have anything positive that they'd like to share with the group? Some great news. It's mostly all awesome. It's probably because there's so many awesome things happening that you can't decide on just one. I'm going to assume that's the case. Probably. Yeah. Derek knows what I'm talking about. Just a plethora of great things happening. Okay. So perfect segue. Chantal brought up justification. So I did want to do a quick 5-minute review of that. Not review, but a circle back on that. So I issued a challenge to everybody here 2 weeks ago to write down 5 statements they use to justify not taking action, and actually use them as triggers to take action. So I would love to hear if somebody would like to share a justification and or that list and some of the actions that they've taken as a result of that exercise. Did they take that challenge, first of all? And if they did, what kind of results did you get in the last couple of weeks? No, it takes cheesecake.
Sorry, the cheesecake conversation has something to do with me, but I was not on the call 2 weeks ago, so I can't justify anything I've been doing.
Or you have justified everything, one or the other, right?
Right. Yeah, just cheesecake. I can justify my cheesecakes.
That's good, as long as they're delicious. They're absolutely fat-free and wholesome and healthy as long as you eat them with friends. So that's what I'm told. Anyone else? What again is a justification? What do we mean by justification when we say that in the first place? What does Anthony Robbins say about that?
Well, it's an excuse,
Right.
that we tell ourselves to make us feel better.
Yeah.
And I'll share an example. I've often say, well, I don't have enough time to read, and I used to never read, and I started with 10 minutes, but recently I've really ramped up my activity when it comes to reading. And now I'm pushing myself to probably read 3 to 4, eventually 5 books a week. When once upon a time, a book a week was extremely challenging with my potential learning disability, etc. But when you look at Lorraine Selecta, that runs LMI International, he reads 10 books in a week and a half, 200 books over a year. So if he can do it, then I can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%. The justification is I'm not a good reader, and now Gabe's becoming a pro. He's going to be a speed reader before we know it. He'll get through a book in a half an hour. One of these within the next few months, I would assume. Thank you, Gabe. That's a perfect example. Anyone else? Derek?
A quick comment. I find on the time deal, like obviously we all have time now. So I find I think we might have had a lot of false justifications, or that I find we all said, "Oh, when I'll have time," exactly like you were saying, Gabe. But now that we have so much time, I think it kind of separates the wheat from the chaff and brings up what you truly want to do with your time. I think we all had a lot of goals that we put on our lists and all like that maybe weren't as real or true as they should have been. Where now that we have the time, I think that'll automatically vex some of those goals or things that you put on the list that maybe weren't really there. Like you put them there and they weren't really true to you. So I think it just kind of separates some of those type of goals. Like now that we have time galore, I still don't want to do it. So why did I even put it on the list if I don't want to do it when I have time, and I didn't want to do it when I didn't have time? And now, maybe I didn't want to do it in the first place.
That's a good
one. So it just vetted a lot of my goals.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Derek. Was it really that important to you? You ever notice that we say to ourselves, there's just never enough time? I'm going to give you guys some quick stats. So the average person in North America, Derek knows this stat because I've shared it with him before. The average North American is in front of a screen 37 hours a week. Those same individuals, maybe you are a boat below, above, or around that average, right? And that means your phone, your tablet, your computers, your televisions, anything like that. You're in front of a screen. Zoom meetings, business meetings are excluded from that. That has obviously way gone up because we're all doing Zoom meetings nowadays, but exclude any real business related, more the distraction type things, the social media and television and so on and so forth. The average person is about 37 hours a week. And most people, when you ask them if they'd like to get in better shape, they'd say yes. I'll use this as an example. And we all know that it takes maybe 30 minutes a day of movement, exercise, sweat time, whatever you want to call it, and proper nutrition in order to get in shape. And nobody seems to have enough time for that. But if you add up that time, it's 3.5 hours a week, when the average person is watching through 37 hours of screen time a week. So it really comes down to, is it really important to you? That's why I say this, because Derek made a really, really, really good point. Is it really important to you to do something? Because you'll always, quote unquote, find time to do the things that are important to you. And you never seem to have enough time to do the things that you wish you could, but maybe you don't really care that much about. Right?
And just to add, what I find too is if I have goals and I'm not meeting, they play on this.
Yeah.
And they diminish my, they play into my imposter syndrome, that all of a sudden, oh, well, I didn't even accomplish that. I wrote it down. It's been there forever. And then it creates a negative reinforcement that you didn't accomplish it. So you might want to just get rid of it.
That's again, perfect segue. So justification is, as Gabe put it, it's an excuse. And even deeper than that, psychologically, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, justification is a way for us to convince us of things that we didn't really need. And if we get used to justifying activities and behaviors and saying, I'll get to it Monday, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I'm too tired, or I don't have enough time, then what we're really saying is, I'm not important enough to commit myself to this, because it's going to be uncomfortable, and I don't like getting out of my comfort zone, and I don't really deserve those results, right? So I'm justified. I'll wait until January 1st, and then I'll get started, right? It'll be my New Year's resolution this year, right? But we all know, if you're really serious, as Paul Meyer says, if you were really serious about something, if you were really serious about a New Year's resolution, you would start today, right? It's waiting until some point in the future when you have time and you can get to it will never, ever happen. And we keep saying those things to ourselves, like Monday sounds like a good start date for me, right? Whatever it happens to be. And those become justifications that we convince ourselves to continue to be average, right? Instead of being the genius that we're capable of being. And if you want to live an average lifestyle and relive the same day over and over again, then keep making those decisions. If you want to live an extraordinary lifestyle and fulfill your full potential, like you're capable of and you were designed to do in the first place, and utilize all the strengths and wonderful qualities that you have to be able to express in this world, then it's time to make different decisions. Right? You got to get out of your comfort zone in order to become the person that you're capable of. And it really is about becoming that person. Right? And understanding what that person is, who that person is, and what that person looks like is step one. Who do I want to become? So today's discussion, if you will, is about self-fulfilling prophecy. I've shared one particular quote with lots of people, lots of times, and you guys have, some of you have probably heard me say this before, and that is Earl Nightingale when he said, "You are exactly where you want to be, whether you want to admit it or not." And that is a slap in the face type statement that I love because it's just a fact. There's an awful lot of people that live in this world that say it's someone else's fault that I'm not successful, or it's the circumstances that I was born into, or it's the parents that I have, or it's this situation or that situation, when really that's all justification. That's all bullcrap. The truth is that we are a product of our choices, right? And if we've chosen to stay comfortable and we've produced a life that we're not proud of, that has been our choice since the beginning. So the only way for that to change, and the only way for your life to improve and become and have the outcome that you really truly desire, is for you to take ownership and responsibility for everything that you've created to this point. There are lots of things that each and every one of us should be proud of. And we don't give ourselves credit for the things that we do well. We only focus on the things that we don't do well. So it's okay for us to actually look at all the accomplishments that we've had and say, you know what? I'm pretty proud of myself, and I've done some amazing things in my life. That should fuel you to say, okay, well, if I can do that, then I know for sure that I can do this, and I can move on, and I can continue to build on myself instead of settling in on all of the things that I haven't done well and say, well, you know, these are the cards that were dealt me. So that's, you know, I have no control over it. This is just the way it is. I'll give you an example. I had a group of clients a few years back. I had the management team leave the room, and I asked the group of frontline workers, how many people in this group feel like they are trapped in their position? And I had no word of a lie, 75% of the people in that room put their hand up. Okay, my first response was, stop lying to yourself. You volunteer to work here, and you feel like you can't go somewhere else because, you know what, if I go somewhere else, I won't get the money that I get paid here. And if I go somewhere else, I don't have experience, so I'll have to start lower, or I'll have to start at the bottom. That has nothing to do with the job that you're in right now. That has everything to do with whether or not you are willing to go out and educate yourself and experience yourself to develop the value that you want to create in the world in the first place. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you will have to make a couple sacrifices over a couple of years in order to really get where you want to go. But you are not trapped anywhere. If there is any part of your life right now where you feel like I'm trapped and I have no choice in the matter, then you need to stop lying to yourself. It's time to stop using that justification to hold yourself back. There is way too much opportunity in this world that you personally can capitalize on. And I want you to imagine a world where everyone followed their passion, where everyone made choices to actually go after something that they feel makes them feel alive. If that was the world that we live in, don't you think the world in itself would grow? The economy is based on how we feel. And if everybody felt better, the economy would grow. And if everybody was moving towards something where they felt passionate and felt like they could truly make a difference in this world, then the economy would grow. There is so much room in this world for people that go after their dreams. And we use justifications like, oh, you know what, I had a kid when I was young, so I had to give up on that idea. And I shared this with everybody a few weeks ago, and maybe not all of you were here, but if you ever look at your kids and say your kids are the reason why you didn't follow your dreams, I dare you to say that to them. right? It's amazing that we can use those things as justifications. Imagine settling in on the idea to say that my child is the reason why I didn't go after my dreams. It was never your child. That's just the story that we tell ourselves, right? You know what? Family is too important for me. I can't go after my dreams and sacrifice that time to be away from my family. So I'm a good person. We use an opportunity like that to create this hero of our own story. So I'm the hero of my story. And for me, I chose my kids. My kids were more important than my dreams. But wouldn't it be incredible for you to look at your kids and say, listen, what do you want to do with your life? And they say, whatever it happens to be. And you say, go for it, because that's what I did. Wouldn't that be so much more powerful than saying, well, I would have done that too, but then I had you, right? That is a really powerful example of that is quite common in this world, right? We even see movies about that. There's this lady that was going to become this ballet dancer, but then she ended up being a single mom in the Bronx and had to give up on all of her dreams. How many times have we seen that movie? So we're getting pumped with this crap all the time. There is no reason why we can't be unbelievably incredible family people and incredibly successful in this world at the same time, right? It is possible to do both. And in fact, I've shared this with you as well. People learn from what they see, not from what they hear. And if you want your kids or your family members or your team members or whoever in your life to be strong, confident, independent, passionate people, then they need to see you demonstrate that. If you want your kids to be strong and independent, you can't be the type of person that is the opposite of that as they watch you. Right? I heard Grant Hill, who's one of my favorite basketball players, I heard him being interviewed by Oprah. I watch Oprah all the time. No, that's not true. Grant Hill was going on this show, and I had to see it because he's a man of great values and character, and I just wanted to hear this interview. And Oprah, and he and his wife were up on stage, and he has 2 daughters in the audience, and Oprah leaned around Grant Hill's wife to ask Grant, he said, who's more important, your wife or your kids? And he immediately responded, my wife. And Oprah was like, wow, you responded quickly. And quite honestly, that's, not usually the response that I hear to that question. He said, well, the answer is simple. He said, how else will my daughters learn how they deserve to be loved unless I demonstrate it with their mother? Right? There was all kinds of basketball talk in that interview. I don't remember any of it, but I have never forgotten that statement. Basically what he was saying is, and he said afterwards, he said, I know for sure my daughters would never come home with a drug dealer boyfriend because they know they deserve what I give to their mom. Right? And there's so many relationships, and there's so many jobs, and there's so many circumstances, and there's so many things that we surround ourselves with, so many friendships that we have, that we settle for what we believe we deserve. Right? And that is a inner talk that creates self-limiting beliefs and insecurities that brings us down, and we don't allow ourselves to believe that we're deserving of something much greater. So we will settle for less. And when you see somebody constantly going from relationship to relationship to relationship with somebody that's abusive, for example, it's because that's what they believe they deserve. It's not true for any of us. And that is an inner change that needs to take place before outer success in relationships can happen. We have to start believing that we are awesome. Karen and I have had this conversation before. You have to really get to the point where you believe that you're awesome. And if some people don't see it, that's okay. Right? I deserve to surround myself with awesome people because that's what I believe I am. And that's also what I believe I deserve. And that's how everyone should feel. Imagine if you were surrounded with people like that all the time. People that you could pour your cup into without emptying it. How many of us are pouring our cup into the people around us and always feeling empty when you walk away from it? You should be pouring your cup into people and they're pouring their cup right back into you. It is easier to be pulled down than it is to be lifted up, right? It's just a matter of gravity. If we surround ourselves with people that we can pull up with us and surround ourselves with people that want to pull us up with them, your life will start to change. So surrounding yourself with the right people, as Gabe mentioned last week, you are only ever going to be the top 10% of the people you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with idiots, then the most you can hope for is to be the top idiot. That's a direct quote from Charlie Tremendous Jones. His words, not mine. Right? So a little bit of a story. I read this in Success Magazine. So this is a direct correlation to self-fulfilling prophecy and how we perceive the world, right? Because perception is reality. You guys have all heard that before. Most of you may not believe that that's true, but if you think about it, it is absolutely true. So you are exactly where you want to be, whether you want to admit it or not. This story in Success Magazine was talking about, it was a self-made millionaire, a gentleman that created a huge business for himself, and he was being interviewed in Success Magazine, and he had a brother that was an alcoholic that had zero success in his life, and anything he was on social assistance amongst other things. So they were interviewing the brother that was successful, and they said, tell me a little bit about your success and why you're so successful. He said, well, it's easy. He said, I grew up with a father that was an alcoholic, and there was no way I was going to be an alcoholic because my father was, and I saw what that was like. When they asked the other brother how come he wasn't a success, he said, well, it's simple. I grew up with a father that was an alcoholic, so I was destined to become an alcoholic. They were twin brothers growing up in the exact same household. This is a true story, right? That'll tell you the choices that we make produce the outcomes that we have. Our perception of reality. That successful brother, his perception in the exact same circumstances. He was the same age as his brother within minutes. The way his outlook on the world was a direct opposite of his brother, even though he grew up in the same household. So sometimes we say, well, I had no choice. Look at the circumstances that I grew up in. No, not at all. This is a perfect example of where that's not the case. And I could give you a ton of examples in my own life as well. Right? So one brother, because of that circumstance that actually fueled the other brother to be successful, is the reason why he wasn't successful. It's amazing how much we can blame everything around us instead of taking personal responsibility. Right? So that takes justification to a whole new level, right? When we're talking about success in the future, Paul Meyer says, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. Albert Einstein says the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Right? But we continue to do that. If I can just do it better, faster, cheaper. I'm working 80 hours a week right now, but if I work 100, I've got to eventually get there. You ever notice that some people, the harder they work, the further they seem to get behind? You've probably had times in your life where it's felt that way. Right? Some of the hardest working people I know get zero traction. And I'm going to give you the answer as to why that takes place. And it's very, very simple. We've talked about it 1,000 times before. I mentioned it in this group as well. If you don't have a target, you will never hit one. If somebody says, I just want to be successful, and success comes from hard work, which is something that was conditioned into us since the age of 5. We just believed that the American dream is developed by hard work. You just work your butt off and you'll eventually just get there. Right? But that's like sending a ship out into the ocean without a captain. Is it how likely is it going to reach its destination if it has no plan and no captain to steer the ship? You have to know what the destination is, when you're going to get there, and what you're willing to do to make it happen. And the people that work super hard and never seem to get anywhere and then point the finger at everyone else that's their fault, it's actually because they have not made a decision on where they want to go and who they want to become. Right? And we allow perception to become our reality. I was told my whole life it's just about working hard. I've been working hard. How come I'm not getting there? Because you haven't identified what there is. See you, Karen? Okay, so I have a little bit of an exercise for you guys. Here's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to think beyond reality for a minute. I want you to take out a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to imagine that in 2020, for the rest of this year, anything that you do, it will be impossible for you to fail. Okay? If it's absolutely impossible for you to fail and attempting absolutely anything, what would you accomplish? And I want you to write down 5 things. Impossible to fail. Once you've done that, I want you to put them in order. And this is how I want you to put them in order. Ask yourself, if I can only do one of these things, which one would it be? Put a 1 next to that. Ask yourself the same question again with the remaining 4 until all 5 of them are in order. Okay. Now, I want you to, unless they're complementary to one another, I want you to cross out the bottom 4. You'll only have the number 1 remaining. It better be big too. Remember, it's impossible to fail. Everybody good? Okay, I got a little secret for you. Unless it breaks the laws of gravity or the natural laws of science, it is impossible for you to fail if you decide that it is. It's a perception. So hopefully when you look at that 1, yeah, soft push transcendence there, Derek. If you look at that one thing, here's an indicator that it's the right choice. It should extremely excite you to accomplish this thing, and it should scare you at the same time. And if you match both of those criteria, then it's the right one. It's the right goal. So I would like on the chat, if possible, Gabe's going to be monitoring it. I would like everybody to start sharing, as scary as that might be, what that number one goal is that they're going to accomplish. And then I'm going to ask you some more questions in a minute here as well. But start sharing what your number one was on the chat, and Gabe's going to monitor that for you. So start sharing. Better scare you. Lose 25 pounds and get fit. I like it. All right, now we're talking. Beautiful. Okay. Keep sharing those. My next question is, and I'd like to hear, something that I learned about Zoom recently. I shared this with another group just the other day. It blew my mind. When you are on, it might be a small thing to you guys, but it's a big deal to me. When you are on mute, if you hold down your space bar, you can talk. And then as soon as you release your space bar, it actually will remute you again. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful tool. So what I'd like you to share and jump in, what are you willing to do to accomplish what you've put down? What's the discomfort that you're willing to go through to accomplish this?
For me, my discomfort that I'm willing to put in is to wake up at 5 a.m. and start my day with a hot bath and do my meditation right after to set up my body as much as possible for a productive day.
Awesome. Well, the hot bath doesn't sound uncomfortable at all. Just to let you know. But 5 a.m. that's good. High level of commitment to get yourself started and productive every day. Who's next? What are you willing to do? No more justification. Now is the time. Change the perception of your reality today to say that 2020 is going to be the best year of your life. It's time. When would now be convenient? Make this a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're right. So now is the time to start believing that you can. What are you going to do about it? Makes you a little uncomfortable to discuss this. It's being recorded, so once you say it out loud, it is official. Now is the time to share with this group. What are you going to do? Make it official. Make it real. Awesome. I like it, Gabe.
I'm going to invest money and time and energy to achieve my goal. And I started yesterday. Gab has connected me with Julie, and we had a great talk, more than just the products. And I felt like when I ran into Gab, a year ago in Starbucks, and then took the course again, and then now he's connected me with Julie, who seems like just as awesome of a person as he is. I'm really grateful, and I can see that this is going to make a huge difference for me.
Awesome. I love it. Perfect example. 2020 is the year. Okay, I'm gonna actually start asking. Since people aren't volunteering, I'm gonna volunteer you. Okay? You ready for this? France, you are in my top left corner. We're starting with you. What are you willing to do this year?
I knew you were going to do it. I had a feeling you were going to hit me right. Health-wise, continue to take care of my health, and which is going to help me to be focused physically and then mentally also. So
Okay.
I'm on the right path. Thank you to Gab and Julie.
Be more specific.
Be more specific.
Don't justify.
What?
Don't justify.
Be more specific, eating healthy daily, continue to do physical activities at least 3 times a week, and continue my positive affirmation to, I guess, build my strengths mentally and physically.
Awesome. That's more like it. 2020 is going to be the best year of your life, physically and
Yep.
mentally, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Good. Made the decision. It's recorded. We're going to put this on Facebook later. So Maria, you are next on my row.
I am. Lucky me. For me, it's more decluttering mentally to make room for more positive thoughts and clearing the way for more better opportunities than what I'm allowing right now.
Okay. Any specific opportunities that you want to allow?
Not specific yet, but I'm open to anything.
Personally or professionally or both?
Both.
Okay. Excellent. So we have some more to discuss.
Yes.
Scott, you're the next person. You're on mute. There you go. You're unmuted. Either that or you're frozen.
I lost the screen for a sec. Thanks, Steve. Mine isn't, oddly enough, I'm not down to a specific yet.
We don't hear you too well.
I'm not down to a specific
There you go.
yet, as clear as I would like it to be. I'm in the process after doing the same thing for 31 years as far as a business, as far as a career. I'm in a shift, a reset of sorts, both with LMI and a couple other business ventures I'm in. And I guess my goal for 2020 is to stop floundering, stop analyzing, and start taking action on those. There's still some decisions to be made that are going to direct me for a couple of those. So it's not a matter of taking action. There's a few I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed, but making sure that I don't just sit and keep thinking about it and using, you talk about justification early on in this conversation, and I've been using an excuse or justification that, I worked hard for 31 years. I've got time to make this happen. I'll just let things unfold as they may. And I've been telling myself for a while, but this is maybe a kick in the pants, a reminder, if you will, that I need to really crystallize those goals and move forward on, decide what I'm going to do and start taking action. So
how many people do you want to work with in 2020?
I'm sorry, Steve?
How many people do you want to work with in 2020?
How many people? Gosh, I don't have an answer to that, Steve. Sorry.
Okay. something to think about. There's some clarity. As soon as you have that target, that destination, then your action plan becomes simple.
Very well.
Simpler, I should say. Yeah. Awesome. Scott, thank you for being so open and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Derek, my friend, Soft Push Transcendence. What do you got? What are you willing to do?
There we go. For me, it's changing the general perception by all parties in construction in New Brunswick.
Oh,
Changing the value proposition on what a tradesperson's worth, and changing the perceptions of the many organizations that have their fingers and hands in the construction industry, because there seems to be a lot of mistrust between union and non-union, even the staff relations, and that transcends into my complete operation and how I'm, and it affects my ability to do proper construction through the whole, well, through the Atlantic region.
awesome. I like it. Let us know if you need a hand.
Yeah, it's just a little goal, you know, just changing.
That sounds like a great project.
1
Phenomenal.
degree at a time, right? 1 degree at a time.
That's right. That sounds more like a hard push transcendence.
Yes.
Monica Hudson. And line 2.
Oh, sorry.
For me, it's a big one. It's a kind of a professional goal, but I'm in the fundraising industry and nonprofit, and I guess my professional goal since I kind of came into the industry a few years ago has been to be on the receiving end of a $1 million single donation check.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah. So for me, that's kind of the plateau of, you know, a success and a big accomplishment in my field. So that's kind of the goal. And in order to get there, it's all about getting to know people and networking and just getting out there, which is something I'm not necessarily comfortable with. So
Awesome.
I guess ultimately my goal would be just building that confidence.
I love it. That's amazing. And, you know, I'll share a quick story, segue. Jim Carrey, before he was famous, wrote himself a check for $10 million before he made a dime. And he used that as a visual reminder every day of what he was working towards. So some sort of visual representation around you at all times, you know, to show to yourself the direction that you're heading into certainly helps you change your perception on whether or not that's possible. And it absolutely will happen in 2020. Is that the plan?
I'm hoping so. Yes.
I don't hope. I'm sorry. That was a word I don't really recognize.
Yes, it's going to happen.
Okay. That sounds good. So that's written somewhere, I'm assuming. That's very specific. I love that. And put some specific dates around it too. So, all right. Thank you for sharing that. That's a big one, and I have no doubt in my mind it's going to take place as long as you continue to realize that that's the case. So, awesome. Thank you. Kim Eagles.
Yeah, well, mine was pretty specific, I guess, for this year of expanding the reach of my estate clearing services, just because I think that will be something that is a little bit more conducive to the environment right now. I work mainly with seniors, and it's harder and harder to get into a senior's home right now and to work with them. So clearing out estates and that for families who can't come here and who can't you know, deal with all of the family estate and all the stuff and that. So that's kind of my goal. I've started working on it a little bit. My goal is to my numbers goal is 2 a month starting in June.
Beautiful.
Which would make me happy and just kind of carry me along. So it's all about really creating that promotional campaign, finding people, first solidifying the message, which is what I'm working on right now, is solidifying the message, what that looks like, what the promotional stuff looks like, and then taking it out to the community and talking to real estate agents, talking to funeral directors, talking to lawyers that deal with people in their estate. So
awesome. I like it. Very specific as well. Plus, you got plenty of time before June begins for you to make that happen.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
willing to do whatever it takes? That's the question that you need to answer.
It's funny, right up until the last week or so, I'm like, no. But the last week, I really feel like I'm back in the groove and kind of feeling like I'm getting back it. I don't know if I was just, well, part of it was laziness, I guess. Part of it was just really having to pivot on what I'm doing because everything came to a screeching halt for me. I do have clients lined up, but at this point in time, I can't get into their homes. So for me, I think I was in shock the first month. And now I feel a lot more focused. So this week I've gotten more done and I have a plan now. And I think that made a big difference. Can't remember who said it at the first about, getting the agenda back out and, writing down a plan, putting those action steps, even if it's not, I'm definitely not working 40 hours a week, but if I can stay focused on the tasks that I want to get done, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And it's yours for the taking, right? Before I get on to Sean, so Sean's next in my screen. I've noticed a couple people jumping off, so I strongly urge you guys not to jump off if this makes you uncomfortable. Verbalizing this and getting it out there amongst this group. I'm assuming a couple people may have jumped off because it made them a little uncomfortable to have to reveal some of this stuff, but you know what? Until you hear it out loud, audible, it's not going to be real and you're not going to make that commitment. So this is the uncomfortable stuff that we need to go through. And this is step one for this goal that you've written down. So I'm excited and I appreciate you guys being so open and honest. So Sean McKinley, what do you got for us?
Well, I will admit I was hovering over the leave meeting button, but I will go ahead and talk. So my goal is not huge. It doesn't sound like a life-changing goal, but we really need a couple more people on our team. We're short-staffed. We have been for a while, and I'm taking the brunt of it. So I know for my well-being, it needs to be goal number one right now is to get a couple of really good account managers in here to take some of the pressure off of me. Yeah. And we were starting the process before COVID hit, and then we kind of put things on hold with everything that went on, and it's been a little nutty with all the deferral processing and the CEBA applications and all that stuff. From our end, we're very manual compared to the big banks, so it's been a lot of administration work for us. And anyway, so my goal is definitely to get 2 really great people on our team. Awesome. And one of the things that I want to do to kind of step outside of my comfort zone to do it is do more active social media video type things to get out there and talk about Amista and talk about how great it is to work here and try and spread the word that we need people, and you don't necessarily need a banking background to do it. You just need a great attitude, and you need to be willing to learn. So anyway, that's my big goal for 2020 is to unload some of my burden.
Love it. I love it. And we need to get that beautiful face of yours out on social media, right? Awesome. Mary, you're next on my screen. Thank you, Sean.
I keep hearing Brene Brown's words in my mind about vulnerability. We start talking about things, especially when you start talking about personal goals. I have all kinds of work goals, and I never seem to lack focus when it comes to work goals, but I tend to lose focus on my own personal goals. And I know that one of the things that I tend not to do is to put more balance in my life personally. And so I'm going to be vulnerable, put it out there, because there's somebody on this line that's going to hear it and is going to keep making sure that I'm going to live by it. But that's going to be to make more time for me. And then I'm going to break that down just break it down a little bit. What that means is going home earlier. Not the crazy hours that I tend to do.
Love it.
And by doing that, then it gives me more time with my family. and my friends and my running. And those are the 3 areas that probably have a tendency to not take my focus. You said earlier, I always make the excuse, oh, I just didn't have time to do that today, but they're all very important to me. I will say my very first one at the top was to see my grandson more, but I don't know how that's going to work out in 2020, just because they're in another province. So that might not be a possible dream. It's a dream right now as opposed to a possibility, just because of the situation. So, but we absolutely we do a lot of Zoom and a lot of other things to make sure we stay in contact. So
again, I love the specific nature of it. And if we're honest with ourselves, which is more important, our personal goals or our business goals? Like, the answer to that, we know the answer. So actually, is there proof in our lives that that order is in proper positioning? And most of us will say no if we're honest with ourselves. So you taking ownership of this, Mary, now is basically saying, I'm taking I'm making my life instead of allowing my life to make me, right? So you're taking charge of it, and it's too important not to. And now is the perfect time. You weren't ready before today. So I love it. Phenomenal. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for being vulnerable. And yes, we're definitely going to hold you accountable to this. All right. So get ready. Thank you for sharing. We're 5 minutes out. We still have a few I want you to share. I just say, if we could have like a 20-second version of what you want to say. I really, really wish that we had an hour with each of you. I really do. But just for sake of time, if I could say that. So that person that I have is Mathieu Boudreau. You're on my screen. So what are you going to do?
Personal goal for me is to sweat 30 minutes a day.
I love it. And why do you want that?
To get back into shape since the quarantine started.
Yeah. You want to start doing those handstand push-ups again. You should see this guy go. I got to tell you, he's a tough mudder. Thank you, Mathieu.
Rob.
Sorry, Tanya D.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I didn't miss today's meeting. My goal for me is to complete my last course to have my second insurance designation. And also what I'm willing to do is wake up at 5:30 every morning to get a good hour's study before anybody else gets up, and which will allow me to maybe have a 30-minute workout in there before all the craziness. Yeah.
That is fantastic. And it is now recorded, Tanya.
Yes.
It's out there. All right. We'll send you this video if we have to. So
okay.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Jolette.
Hi, I wrote down my goal is to get back to my 5-star status in my business. Is a certain rank, which I had achieved 4 years ago within 18 months, which is, I know it's hard to tell, but it's unbelievable. I didn't realize it was unbelievable, but now I realize how hard it is because I'm trying to get back there. What I'm ready to do is, I think it's, I'm in the health and wellness business. So, and the opportunity is not only for health, but it's also for financial health. It's not just for physical health. And what got me to my 5-star status the first time is I was only concentrating on that side, the health and wellness side, and not providing or giving the opportunity to my clients to have the financial health also. And I think that's why I kind of lost where I was. So just trying to rebuild that, and 2020 is looking really good so far.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Very specific as well. I love it. And it's gonna happen. Darren Duguay. 20 seconds or less.
Doing a 95% dump of anything I'm currently allocating time and energy, Steve, so I can become really clear what my 5% is. Today I am standing down a business to co-create a family business and have an international worldwide impact. I'm also going to follow through with the book called The Naked Runner, which I was going to plan on doing in 2019. It will happen by 31 December this year.
That's amazing. I've seen that guy. he runs in Riverview once in a while. I get to see him. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Steve.
Chantal Landry.
Personal goal, finances. I'm not sure what the actual goal is. Maybe just get my act together, but I'll work on that. And then professional, this virus has definitely thrown our organization, because we're a social enterprise. We have a business and then we also have a nonprofit side. So has thrown us into a loop. So it's, and we were headed in the right direction. So it's kind of thrown us through another loop. So yeah, so I think it's about how do I pivot and still lead it to the greatness that it's bound to go into. So that's kind of the goal.
You and I will talk specifics later.
That would be great.
Tim Ganong, last but not least. You are mute. Hold on. I'll unmute you here, but I can't. Sometimes I can't unmute people. I'm not sure why. You're muted. We may have to get you to type it.
Oh, there. Is it now?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Good. Hi. Well, we know it's to beat cancer. I have 4 rounds of chemo left. So by August, we should be done.
Woohoo! And you're going to get back to the handstand push-ups as well.
Exactly. Then I can get back to running and everything else in life. So
Love it. I love it. You look fantastic, by the way. I love the hair.
Isn't it something?
way better than mine. I love it.
Thank you.
It is 10, so I'm going to let you guys go, but just remember this. You just made this commitment, not just to yourself, but to everybody here. Perception is reality. 2020 is the year that you make it, and then stop letting the year control you. Take control of it and the rest of your life. Imagine if you made that decision every single month of every year for the rest of your life, what your life will look like 10 years from now. 1/10 of 1% growth every single day for the rest of your life. You can only imagine how huge you can build yourself, right? So let's fulfill our potential, and we will see you back here next week. Invite some people, some friends of yours, to come visit with us next week for happy hour, and I look forward to seeing you all back there. So stay true to yourself. God bless. Love you all. Have a great weekend.